Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Shi Ting. I'm from JSC. Today, I will be presenting the Central Data Transfer Service together with my colleague, Miguel from BSc. In this talk today, I will first introduce some data services in Phoenix, leading to the concepts and some technical parts of the data transfer service. So the main focus today would be providing guidance to use the data transfer service deployed at BSc. So we will follow all the steps to submit a job to the data transfer service. And lastly, there will be a very short demo to show you how exactly it is done to submit a job. Okay, we can begin. So from architectural point of view, Phoenix services can be divided into two parts that fit into two environments, one being the HPC environment and the other being the cloud environment. We also have two corresponding data storages. They are active data repository and archival data repository. So active data repository is considered to be close to the computing resources, and it has rather limited storage space. And therefore, it is recommended that you store only short-term data sets in active data repository. On the other hand, we have archival data repository. So it makes use of the cloud storage and is usually scalable. It's therefore very suitable for storing long-term and large data sets. The data transfer service that we're talking about today is within the scope of archival data repository. So archival data repositories are federated and by Phoenix AI. Each of them has a OpenStack Swift interface, meaning that they're all object stores. So files are stored as objects in this object store. It's considered as a rather flat file system than normal hierarchical file system. There are three Phoenix sites that offer archival data repository at the moment. They are CSC, BSc, and SEA. So for CSC and BSc, you can access the information about their object store in these links. However, for SEA, you might need to contact the administrator because I believe the archival data repository there is rather new. When I used it, it was still in testing phase. So it's there, but you might need to contact them. One thing I would like to note here is that JSC also has an object store, but it is not a part of ICEI project, so it's not listed here. But in any case, if you would like to transfer data from or to JSC object store, you can do that as well with our data transfer service. Moreover, we are promised that Chineka will host an archival data repository as well, but it's not available at the moment. So from now on, you might be hearing the term FTS a lot. So I would like to introduce it here. It is in short of File Transfer Service. It's a tool developed by CERN. So in the past few months, I have added Swift support to FTS, and hence FTS is used for the data transfer service. An FTS instance is, usually it contains a lot of components. But as a user, what you need to know are two important components. They are FTS or FTS3, which is considered as the backend of the service. And then there's FTS REST, which is the front end of the service. We have an FTS instance deployed at BSc now. It's ready for testing and it's open access to the public. I put the URL here, but we're going to talk more about it in the later slides. Before we go to the details, let's first check the general workflow of how a data transfer works with our data transfer service. So basically, the user will need to authenticate to Phoenix AI and obtain an OIDC token. So the user can submit a job to FTS REST server. FTS REST server will try to validate this user credential with Phoenix AI. If it works, FTS REST will submit the job to FTS. And FTS will complete such data transfer by pulling the data from archival data repository number 1 and pushing the data to archival data repository number 2. And now we have finished a data transfer. Now I would like to discuss how one can use the data transfer service. To use the service, you have to satisfy the following requirements. So firstly, you would need valid credentials for Phoenix AI. That means you should have an account from one of Phoenix hosting sites, or you have an HPP account, and that also works. Secondly, you need to have access to the source and destination storage endpoint. I mean, you have to have access to object store, for example, obviously. And lastly, you would need to install a so-called FTS REST client package. It is available from the following link. Just for your information, my slides and everything needed is already uploaded. You can access it in the agenda. So this package is an RPM package, so you will have to install it and use it via command line. Right now, it's only possible to access FTS via command line, but we are in the process of deploying a web interface at BSC as well, so you might not need to do this installation in the future, and you can just access the service from your browser. So once we have settled the requirements, we can start submitting our job. The first step would be to obtain an OIDC token. This is fairly simple. You can go to the website fts.bsc.es. Then you should see this Phoenix login page. And if this is your first time, you probably cannot see any IDPs, but then you go to the button Add Another Institution on the button, and then you type which IDP you would like to use, and then you log in. And if it works, you will see something like this screenshot. You will have, for example, your account information. So for me, I have my email, and then there's the user DN. So the user DN is just serve as an identifier in FTS. You don't need to know this, but you can verify this, for example. And the most important thing here is the access token. And this is the OIDC token I'm talking about. And this is important because you need it to submit a transfer. And the second step will be preparing parameters for transfer. So you need 2 project IDs. One project ID for the project where your data is located at the moment, and the other project ID for the project where you would like to transfer your data to. In simpler words, one project ID for the source and one project ID for the destination. To obtain this information, you can go to OpenStack dashboard, and you go to the identity, and you find projects, and you should have all the projects that you have listed. Then you pick the one you want. Or if you prefer do it via command line, then you can do OpenStack project list, and there you will have it. Well, you will need to have OpenStack Python client installed in this case, of course. So secondly, for object store at CSCS and JSE, you will also need a corresponding OS token. So you can find out how to obtain an OS token via these links here, respectively. Please follow the instructions, and then you should have an OS token. Now, we can finally submit a transfer. So if you install the FTS REST client package, you should be able to use all FTS REST commands. To submit a transfer, you will need to use FTS REST transfer submit command, and then you do -s, and then you specify the FTS endpoint. So here, for example, for the FTS at BSC, the address is fts.bsc.es. Please remember the port number is very important here, so please enter 8446 for the port number. Just type exactly as it is shown at the moment, then it will work. And then you need to specify your access token. So this is the token we retrieved in step 1. And then specify an OS project ID in the format of source, then destination. And you also need to specify OS token if you're using CSCS or JSC object store. So you do project ID and then corresponding OS token. So these information we have already retrieved on step 2. Lastly, you have to specify source URL and destination URL. Note that you're using Swift as the protocol here instead of HTTP, and this is just telling FTS that, okay, we're using Swift. So for example, here I'm transferring data from object store at CSCS to object store at BSC. It's fairly simple. You just type the storage URL and then container name and then object name. So if this works, if you're authenticated, you should see the following output. It tells you the endpoint, the API version, tells you the job is submitted, then it gives you a job ID, and this job ID is quite important at later times. So what you might want to do after you submit a transfer is to courier the transfer. So it's really simple. You use the command FTS REST transfer status. You need the FTS endpoint again and your access token, and then you give your job ID, for example, the job ID that I just showed you. In addition, what you might need is to list all transfers and also cancel a transfer maybe. So these are the commands that you need. It's listed here. In addition to all that, FTS also supports bulk transfer, meaning that you can submit multiple files for transfer in one job. To do that, you need a JSON file. So here you can see this is an example JSON file. Basically, you can specify all the files you want to transfer in the file section. So as an example here, I'm transferring 2 files, one called CP1 and the other called CP2. Well, you can just add as many as you want, of course. And this will be the files section. And in param section, you can specify OS token, OS project ID. And this way, you don't have to specify it in the FTS REST transfer submit command. You can simply do FTS REST transfer submit, the FTS endpoint, access token, and then you do minus file this JSON file. Then the job is submitted. So we have our user manual, and it will include, it does include everything that I have just said. And also with more details. So you may refer to it if you would like to use our data transfer service. Or you can, of course, contact us if there is any problem and then you don't find any solution in the user manual. So finally, we can see the demo. Okay, and I hope you can see this. Okay, so this is the first step. We go to fts.bse.es, and here you can choose whichever institution you like and then sign in. So yeah, after signing in, you should see this page and you get the OIDC access token. So this is just saving the token. And as I said before, if you want project ID, you can do OpenStack project list in command line. And now it's just showing you which container we're using and which object we're trying to transfer. So we're transferring the object, the Fedora-cloud, blah, blah, blah. And now we're getting information from the object store at CSCS. The object store at CSCS offer this command line script where you can run and easily get everything you need. So here you do token issue and then you get the OS token. And we're saving the OS token at the moment. And this is just to show you which containers are in the CSCS object store. Okay, now this container is empty. Okay, so this is an information that if you want to verify your access token or your account to FTS, you can do this via FTS REST who am I. You need to have specify the FTS endpoint and your access token, and it tells you your user DN, etc. And it also give you your email address, etc. And now we're finally doing the FTS REST transfer submit. As I was talking about earlier, you need to specify all this. So for this one, we are transferring from BSE to CSCS. To be more specific, we're transferring from this BSE container 01 to the object store at CSCS, and this container, I believe CSCS container 01. Yeah, you can specify a name or you can just use the same name. Well, anyways, then you need to specify project IDs. Okay, this is two project ID. And because we are using the object store at CSCS, we also need to specify an OS token. Yeah, so it tells you that you have submitted the job. We would like to query it at the moment. So again, you basically always need the FTS endpoint and your access token. And there it says status finish. That means we have completed the data transfer. To verify that, you can just do object list and okay, there you are. We have it in in CSCS now. So, this will be the end of demo. And well, thank you all for listening.